Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. The meeting is now live streaming. I'll hand it over to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our December full council meeting. For those that have joined us, whether it be members of the public or other officers, etc., you will see a festive spirit because we all need something to cheer us up during these difficult times. But believe you me, the council meeting will be taken with its full formality and protocols. Now, before I actually start the meeting, I would just like you to work with me as I'm just going to pay tribute to Colin Arms, a previous Thetford Mayor, Town District and County Councillor, and a former chairman of this council. And Colin sadly died. And I'm going to ask Councillor Terry Jeremy to lead the tributes.
Thank you very much.
Terry. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'm very honoured to be asked to say a few words about Colin today. For me and many others, Colin Arms was simply a Thetford legend. He was elected, as you say, to the Town Council, the District Council and the County Council on multiple occasions. He served as Mayor of Thetford twice and as Chairman of Breckland. Colin was passionate about Thetford and a proud son of Norfolk. After his many years' service as a postman, it was no surprise that he was such a people person, warmly and vigorously shaking the hand of whoever he came across, embracing them as an old friend. He was a strong supporter of dozens of local groups, not just there to make up the numbers. Colin was often the driving force behind getting things sorted and getting things done. He had a tenacity that he maintained throughout his life, right up to the end when he could be spotted pulling up on his mobility scooter to catch the ear of whoever he needed to speak to highlight a local concern or issue. A particular passion for Colin was the environment, and he was a strong advocate for Barnham Cross Common and a regular volunteer working to improve our town's river corridor. Well into his 70s and probably his 80s, I can recall coming across Colin on a number of occasions, waist deep in mud, cleaning the river of debris and weeds. He inspired many, including myself, and he was one of the reasons that I got involved in politics. He, for me, was part of a generation of Labour councillors and activists that I grew up with and that have sadly now departed. Notably for me, Ray Key, Gary McGinty, Pat Balaam and Jack Ram. We in Thetford and the wider Breckland district owe him an immense debt of gratitude for his many years of dedicated service. Our condolences to his wife Sylvia and the wider Arms family at this sad time. I understand, having spoken with Sylvia this week, that a Thanksgiving service for Colin's life will be held in 2021 when the COVID restrictions ease, and further details of that, Chairman, will be shared in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeremy. Is there anybody else would like to make a comment? I have Keith Gilbert and Robert Kybird. If officers could watch for anybody else for me, please.
Thank you. I'd like to echo everything that Terry's just said. I served with Colin on the council for quite a number of years, including his term as chairman, and he was a real gentleman. He had time for people. He would talk to people and he would listen to other people's points of view, and he was a wonderful ambassador for local government as a whole, and he will be sorely missed, especially in Thetford, where, as Terry has said, he was a Thetford legend. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Kybird.
Thank you, Chairman. Colin was very much a Norfolk man and proudly boasted Robert Kett as part of his heritage. So a slight bit of a rebel in there, but he was somebody who would never let politics get in the way of what was best for the local community, and I always admired him for that. We will miss him very much, and both he and Sylvia have done a huge amount for the town and have represented Thetford in the best possible fashion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else? Julie, Teresa?
Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen.
Oh, right. Yes, sorry. Just remember
Lovely,
to
thank
move
you.
screens. Carry on,
Chairman.
Peter.
As a young Conservative in Thetford, cutting my teeth and following my mother, who was a councillor for both town and district, Colin and Sylvia, one of those individuals who, regardless of my political affiliation, took great interest and time to support me in my endeavours. And as Terry said, it's those type of individuals and those characters who allow young individuals to have a desire to get involved with politics. And it's been mentioned that Colin was a Thetfordian through and through. He cared passionately about the borough for those who were born there and those who decided to move there, regardless. And I remember once I was selected on an international air exchange to Singapore, where Colin served as a young man with the Royal Air Force. And Colin very kindly donated some money to that expedition for me. It was a phenomenal amount of money for a young man, a single family, to raise to get me over to the other side of the world. And Colin took great interest in my expedition. He wanted me to visit several places to make sure I got the full Singapore experience. And part of the deal was that I had to go around and see him afterwards to make sure I gave him a full back brief to tell him what had changed in Singapore from when he was there. And as other individuals have mentioned, he will be sorely missed. He was a face around Thetford. And I think that individuals such as Colin and others, which Terry mentioned, show the true spirit of what politics is about. Although we fly under a banner, actually it's about those individuals who care and want to make a difference to their communities. And Colin was one of those.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else?
Madam Chairman, Councillor Wilkin.
Oh, yes, carry on.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. When I first joined the council in the 90s, Colin was my first chairman of Breckland Council, and we had a lovely evening, my wife and myself, in Thetford at the bird sanctuary place near the Three Bridges, and he was extremely warming to me as a very young councillor, and over our time serving on various committees together. And when I became chairman in 2011, he was one of the first ones to contact me and invite me to Thetford to see the Thetford that I didn't know about. And we had a lovely tour around different parts of Thetford and a lunch at his home with Sylvia and my wife as well. And he was not just a councillor, he was a very, very good friend, and Sylvia as well. And he will, as everyone said, be sorely missed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And finally, I have Councillor Brame, please.
Thank you, Chair. I must admit, everybody's been saying so many things about the Colin that they all remember from the past. I would just like to say he never stopped. His local Housing Residents Association will be and are absolutely devastated. He turned up every month. He sat at the front. He always had another idea, something else to promote his area where he lived. Him and Sylvia will both be extreme. I mean, poor Sylvia, she'll be devastated, obviously, but all her community will be supportive of her because they all loved him. I've been fortunate enough to be at several of the meetings with him, and I can't speak highly enough of the man today who was still doing it. He'd turn up and he would be there. I don't know where they're going to get their ideas from in the future. Hopefully somebody else will step forward on the community front on his estate. He lived in the same house ever since I can remember. My father and Colin bought the first two houses in the road he still lived in. So he's been there for a long time because I'm very old. So, you know, thank you, Colin. You did a damn good job for the people that you knew and loved and your community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Many of us were lucky enough to be councillors alongside Colin's wife, Sylvia, so we know her well, and I have written to her on behalf of us all. I would now like to call for a minute's silence for Colin and all past colleagues. I just thought that was appropriate this year. So I will time a minute starting from now. Thank you. Thank you all very much. So now we'll go to the meeting proper, and I will ask Julie, please, to do the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Ashby,
Present.
Mr. Askew,
Present.
Mr. Attewell,
Present.
Mr. Bambridge,
Present, sorry.
Mr. Burt,
Sorry, here.
Mr. Borrett,
Present.
Councillor Bowes,
Here.
Mr. Brame,
Present.
Mr. Brindle,
Present.
Miss Bushell,
Present.
Mr. Carter,
Here.
Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen,
Sorry, Chairman.
See her.
Mr. Sam Chapman-Allen,
Here.
Mr. Clark,
Present.
Mr. Clausen,
Yeah.
Mr. Coleman,
Present.
Mr. Cowan,
Here.
Mrs. Crane,
Present.
Mrs. Dale,
Present.
Mrs. Dowling, Mr. Duffield,
Here.
Mr. Dygan,
Present.
Mr. Eagle,
Here.
Mr. Gilbert,
Here.
Mrs. Gray, Mr. Harvey,
Present.
Mr. Hewitt,
Here.
Mrs. James, Mr. Jermy,
Here.
Councillor Cadell, Mr. Kiddle Morris,
Sorry, I'm here.
Mr. Kybird,
Here.
Mr. Ian Martin,
Here.
Mr. Keith Martin, Mrs. Monument,
Here.
Mr. Morton,
Here.
Mr. Nairn,
Here.
Mr. Nunn,
Here.
Mr. Oliver,
Present.
Mr. Robinson,
Present.
Mr. Sherwood,
Present.
Mrs. Suggett,
Present.
Miss Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Terry,
Here.
Mrs. Turner,
Here.
Mrs. Webb,
Here.
Mr. Wickerson,
Here.
Mr. Wilkin,
Here.
and Mr. Wilkinson.
Present.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have any apologies, please?
Madam Chairman, I have apologies from Mrs. Dowling, Mrs. Gray, Mrs. James, Councillor Cadell, and Mr. Keith Martin.
Thank you very much. Right, I shall now ask, move on to item 3, which are the minutes of the last meeting. I'm just bringing them up on my screen. I'm not going to go through them line by line, page by page, because I'm guessing you've already done that. I'm proposing that you're happy to agree the minutes. If you are in favour of the minutes, will you please raise your hands clearly? Do we have any objections to the minutes? Please raise your hands clearly. And any abstentions? Nope. Okay, Julie.
That's carried, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. So they are approved. We now move on to item 3, which is the suspension of standing order number 5, to consider the suspension of this order to enable the order of business for this meeting to be altered. Do I have a proposer for that, please?
Could I speak, please?
Very well, Councillor Burt. I'll speak before I ask for a proposer and seconder.
Thank you. I am concerned that what we're doing here is over and above what members of the public would expect us to do. I have no problems at all with reordering the business to be conducted today. I mean, that just makes sense. But what's actually happening is that we are deleting business, which is in the normal agenda. Can I refer you to Standing Order 5, Parts J and K? And these have been completely removed from the agenda. So reordering to the point of gone.
I'm going to clarify for you, and I know I've got Mark Stinson somewhere on my screen who will help me, or Max. This is why we do it at each meeting, because this is for the duration of the pandemic, when life is very different, and we want to keep the business that's going streaming out live as succinct and important and necessary as possible. All members have access to the public documents, which are the minutes, etc. Having said that, I did discuss this yesterday with the leader and Democratic Services and Mark Stinson, and this is something we're looking to review. So thank you for your comment, and that's why we are where we are. So can I go back to have a proposer, please? Hilary, thank you. And a seconder, Peter Wilkinson. Thank you very much. May I have a show of hands of all those in favour of item 3? Do we have anybody against? And any abstentions? Thank you. So that's carried. Thank you. I move on to item 4, declaration of interests. If any member has an interest to declare, please do so now. If the meeting carries on and then you suddenly think, oh, I've got an interest, please just let us know, and then you will be asked to leave the meeting room. So if anyone has any interest, please declare now to the officers. Can't see
Madam
any.
Chairman, I see no hands up.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 5, Chairman's announcements. I'm delighted that the bookings for our Zoom into Santa, which happens on the 12th and 19th of December, have been a very positive event, and already donations to the DAISY programme have been made. I just want to emphasise this is a member-led exercise, so we haven't taken up any time or resources from Breckland. The booking line will remain open with Councillor Webb and myself, as there are 1 or 2 slots still available. I'm also very encouraged with the number of donations also made to the DAISY programme by members in our Christmas jumpers, hats, reindeers, everything appeal. And I can tell you now the final total will be in the many hundreds of pounds. So thank you very much. For those of us who took part in the recent befriending and safeguarding training, it was well worthwhile, and I would encourage other members to take similar opportunities of training when they arise. As chairman, I've been made aware of many Breckland success stories during the COVID-19 situation, and I have permission to share 2 with you. The expanded gym in Gressin Hall, where the young owner says, "The grants given helped me to secure my business by allowing me to continue paying my overheads during this time. It also allowed me to use Zoom and other communications to help keep in contact with my clients and to run sessions via the internet, keeping them fit, well and active, as well as mentally sound during the most difficult times. And this was particularly for the elderly and vulnerable people." The second example is from my own patch, which I share with Councillor Hewitt. Cranworth is a tiny village with no facilities other than the church, village hall and a playing field. Prior to lockdown, 2 enterprising young ladies had started a volunteer group and fundraising to get the playing field back in use and the collapsing pavilion fit for purpose. Their £10,000 grant was literally a lifeline, and the site is now ready for use by local and visiting sports teams, which is a fitting legacy for generations to come. The Silver Social. This programme is now in its 4th year and brings the arts and activities and friendship, especially to the elderly and vulnerable in our communities. Normally staged live in our towns and villages, during the pandemic, performances are now via the internet and reach many people, from poetry to crafts, from dance to calligraphy. I have been astounded at the skills and participation of many of our older folk who just surprise the professional artists with their humour, great knowledge and keen participation. From Silver Social activities, friendships are formed, new groups emerge, and a foundation is built to help manage loneliness and isolation. If you haven't yet zoomed into one of the many programmes put on, please find time to do so. Full details from the communities team. And finally, on behalf of all the members of all parties and all persuasions, a huge thank you from us all to all our officers in Breckland. I'm not going to single one team out or one person. I can't, because everyone has played a role. Many of them have had to play a different role during the situation and will continue to do so. But I know from experience, whenever I've spoken to any of them, they've been cheerful, willing to help. They'll go and do a bit of research to help us do whatever we need to do in our wards, and all carried through with a great sense of humour. So all of you guys, thank you very much. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 6, leaders' announcements, and I'll hand over to the leader, please.
Lovely, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, councillors, and fantastic to see so many Christmas jumpers, hats, backgrounds and everything else, and hopefully you've all managed to donate to the Chairman's Daisy programme link, which she sent through to raise money for a really important cause within our community. A couple of points I just want to cover off today, Chairman, and as always, I'm more than happy to take any questions. And I want to start off by talking about our high streets, and following the recent periods of national restrictions, I'm delighted to say that our high streets are once again open for business. And I'm sure, like you've had a quick wander around and supported your local high streets and seen the fantastic footfall, which has been there, some fantastic window displays, and of course, all the safety measures which those independent shopkeepers have put in place to make us all feel safe during the pandemic. And as a council, we are still working closely with all our local traders throughout the pandemic to provide them with advice, support, millions of pounds of grant funding to help them remain viable now and into the future. And the Chairman mentioned a couple of those businesses earlier, which have been absolute lifelines for them to move forward. Now, following the success of our confidence campaign back in the spring and summer to support those local businesses, and into the run up to Christmas, we've now got our new campaign, and you'll see my backdrop, Chairman, if I drop my head: enjoy, discover and explore, calling on residents and visitors to make the most of our fantastic high streets, all 5 of our market towns in Breckland. And we're encouraging people to show their support for local businesses by please shop local, do things local this year and take advantage of our excellent range. I visited an art gallery in Dereham, somewhere where I didn't even know existed until this part of the campaign started. So you're likely to see articles in the local press, posters in shop windows, banners flying high above our high street lampposts, an online directory on our website of local shops, and a range of social media content highlighting our important local economy. And as members of the council, please can I ask all of you to support your local high streets. If you're going out and about, do introduce yourself as a local councillor and see what concerns and issues they've got. But more importantly, they will thank you for supporting their local high street. And please do continue to spread the word. Next, Chairman, I want to talk about our COVID officers and our recruitment. As part of our response to the pandemic and our further support to our communities and our residents and businesses, we've recruited a team of COVID officers, and they're in place in our high streets and our towns now. Our 10 COVID officers will provide a presence, that visibility on our high streets over the coming weeks and months to provide support, advice, guidance, not just to businesses, but to local shoppers as well. And on top of that, they will be undertaking our door-to-door knocking for our local track and trace, something which has proved to be a valuable tool in our arsenal to combat the pandemic. We'll be introducing these people and the new support officers via social media. So I hope that members and those members of the public watching today will follow our videos and our online content to understand what the roles they'll be undertaking over the coming days and weeks. And as 2020 draws to a close and what has been an absolutely dreadful year for many and tragedies through loss, we do have to look forward, Chairman, to 2021. And having talked about some of the current activities in the district, I'd like to focus on the year ahead and some of the activities which will be shaping our 2021 and what could and should be an immensely exciting year. The budget and its draft is well underway for the financial year, and it will be shared in due course and go through, of course, that normal committee process. However, as it stands, I'm delighted that we're expected to bring forward in the draft budget what will be a balanced budget position. And into the new financial year, we won't necessarily have to make some of the difficult decisions which many other councils are having to face. And I'm pleased that we will be protecting all of our frontline services. And in fact, Chairman, we will be investing more in some of our frontline services and our priorities moving forward. Whether that's within the environment agenda, recruiting new officers there, to new animal welfare officers, ensuring that we're protecting our animals throughout the district, to our new waste collection services, and of course, enhanced fly tipping support as well. Moving into our market towns initiatives, MTI, for many who have seen it. We've had a really positive response from that. And of course, we are still committed to that expenditure of £150,000, which we will be investing in every market town in the new year. And the first part of those projects are being built up now and hopefully delivered in the latter part of this financial year and the early part of the financial year 21-22. And this is all being driven by local members, Chairman. And for Watton, we expect to see a bit of a refreshment of the high street with some new improved sustainable street furniture and improvements to the overall look and feel to make it a fantastic place to come and visit. And in Thetford, we're working around that great asset of the rivers. You'll see some new lighting to deal with some antisocial behaviour, but more importantly, new seating, some attractions to encourage people to come and enjoy that fantastic area. In Attleborough, we're focused on Active Attleborough, talking about movement, sports, activities to bring people out to the communities, enjoy the fantastic public spaces they've got, and promoting the historic centre. With Swaffham, we're looking at those green infrastructure initiatives to actively improve that air quality within the town to make Swaffham a destination of choice to the northern part of our district. And whilst in Dereham, we want to celebrate and encourage those vibrant independent shops and that cultural sector of the towns, linking together those areas so we've got fantastic footways and connectivity between those locations. In addition, Chairman, we're improving that power connectivity in both Thetford and Snetterton, able to ensure that Breckland is able to grow not just our houses, but more importantly, our industries and our employment sites, so that individuals can not just live in Breckland, but can also work in Breckland as well. And with all of that, we need to make sure our corporate plan is looked at and reviewed. Normally, Chairman, we talk about a corporate plan refresh. In the light of COVID, we're going to overhaul the corporate plan to make sure that Breckland is still a place where residents and businesses can thrive. And that's being put together now. And of course, that will be presented to the relevant committees, and that's going to overview and scrutiny in early January and coming to council in February. My cabinet colleagues and officers across the council are working hard to pull that together to make sure that Breckland is still pivotal to the success of our community, but more importantly, continuing to deliver for every single one of our residents and businesses. And Chairman, I just want to close on 2 final points. We've seen the vaccine rollout across England and other parts of the United Kingdom this week, and what a fantastic achievement. And the National Health Service in Norfolk and Waveney have begun inviting care home workers and members of the public who are 80 and over to attended appointments to receive their COVID vaccine. We now have the vaccine confirmed as safe and effective through the MHRA, and the vaccine has begun the rollout across the community hospitals of James Paget and Norfolk and Norwich by appointments only, and that commenced yesterday to great success. The 2 hospitals are the first sites in Norfolk and Waveney to receive the vaccines, and they're among 50 across the whole of the country, which will begin this programme this week. Initial supplies of the vaccine, Chairman, are limited, and they are going to be given to those most at risk and a small number of frontline National Health Service staff. And people over the age of 80 will be contacted by their local GP practices. So all people need to make sure that they're following the advice. Please don't turn up to an appointment. Please make sure that you only turn up when and if invited to do so. And as I said, your GP practices are arranging those. But as much as the vaccine's here, Chairman, as much as people are using the image of the cavalry has arrived, the pandemic is still very much with us. So all of us across the district and Norfolk, we must remain ultra cautious. And the best way to protect ourselves, our loved ones and our friends and families is to ensure that we continue to wash our hands, cover our face and make space. And Chairman, finally, a big thank you. A thank you once again, as you've said, to all the officers of Breckland, all the members of this council, the public sector workers across Breckland and Norfolk, key workers, those volunteers, those childcare workers, and those within the care sector providing that valuable support for those who are most in need. And everybody across those areas and wider afield has ensured that Breckland is continue to run and that our communities are a safe place. And Breckland Council will continue to operate throughout the Christmas and New Year period, supporting those most in need. So if at any point you think that we may be closed or it's out of hours, we are still there to support you when you need us. So please do look on our website for all of our out of hours service and support we're providing. And Chairman, I'd like to take this moment to wish everybody across Breckland a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Leader. If you would like to ask the Leader a question on any of the issues he's raised, please raise your hand clearly so that the officers can take a note of it and we can spot you on our whizzy across screens. Questions for the Leader?
Councillor Wilkinson?
Yes. Councillor Jeremy, you have nothing you wish to ask? That's why I'm coming to you first, because I'm following the protocol in the Constitution.
You don't need, Chairman, you don't need to encourage people, honestly. If there's nobody there, that's fine. We can move on.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe protocol allows me under questions without notice, but not this one.
Well, I'm exercising my generosity to you.
Well, I'm quite happy for Peter Wilkinson to go first if you want, Chairman, or equally, I'm quite happy to ask a question.
No, you kick off.
Okay, thank you.
Not literally.
Thank you for the update, Sam. It dawned upon me within the last week, no, actually it didn't dawn upon me. It reaffirmed my view this week about the importance of local government when my inbox was filled with emails about COVID, about bird flu and about a potential building collapse within Thetford. So my thanks to the officers who did a sterling job this week, keeping members informed, keeping the public informed. It really, to open your inbox and to see all of these different issues, big issues combined, was really striking this week. I wonder how negotiations are going with the government in relation to local government funding, Sam, and what representations you've been making on behalf of the district about that. to provide all of these really important services. Often, obviously, we need the funding to do that. And so what's the latest on efforts to ensure we get a fair settlement for local government, please?
Thanks, Terry. And just to echo your thanks to officers. And I think that some of us sometimes forget that for our normal work, we can switch off when we get home on a Friday. But our officers in quick order on a Friday afternoon were stood up ready to support DEFRA with the avian flu outbreak, and throughout the weekend cancelling their arrangements they had with their families to ensure that they were protecting residents in Thetford through dangerous buildings. And they're just exactly as you said, some of the examples of why local government is so important to the functionality and the protection and support of our residents and businesses. In relation to the budget position announced from HMG, the DCN has met again today and again yesterday. Both of those calls I was on, in which we are getting our position statement ready to respond to government in relation to their settlement. You'll see from the emerging budget, which will be announced in early part of 2021, are the measures we're taking to ensure that we're protecting our frontline services, which we are, and in fact, as I mentioned earlier, expanding on them. But actually the role of the DCN as our lobbying group for districts, we need to ensure that it's a fair playing field across the piece. And you'll notice that certain areas will be disadvantaged to some of the announcements made, but government has been immensely generous throughout the pandemic, committing millions of pounds to local councils at all tiers of government to ensure that they are able to continue and operate and protect frontline services. And I think if it wasn't for the Conservative government giving us those financial commitments and settlements, we wouldn't be able to deliver a balanced budget this year.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I ask Sam if he would agree with me? We've had some worthy thanks to the officers, which has been fantastic, and especially the Democratic Services facilitating all our meetings, which is very difficult. Would he agree with me that the leader needs a good thank you and has done very, very well? I should say the chairman has done very, very well chairing these meetings, I feel, which is a difficult platform. And I'd just like to see if you'd agree with me that thanks are worthy there as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman, and thanks, Peter, for your question. I congratulate anybody who is able to chair a meeting successfully on this TV-type device. It is immensely challenging, and I know that the chairman's got the support of the Democratic Services officers, but I know many of you and others across the community chair many groups, parish councils, subcommittees, etc. And it is immensely challenging. And Linda has done a sterling job throughout this, embracing technology, keeping us all in check, and of course, thinking of initiatives such as today to raise awareness of a very important charity such as the DAISY programme, start that conversation about domestic abuse and domestic violence. And she should be commended for that, as should all chairmen who are operating in these very difficult and challenging times.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Peter. Do we have any more questions for the Leader?
Councillor Borrett.
Thank you. Councillor Borrett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Would the Leader not agree with me when he was listing the projects that the council was getting on with in our market towns, that I'd just like to highlight a couple that we are delivering with our in the Norfolk Strategic Infrastructure Plan that we're delivering with our partners, the LEP and Norfolk County Council, but with Breckland very much in the driving seat. The Attleborough Town Centre improvements for £4.5 million, which has already started, £3.6 million for the Snetterton energy supply, £9.8 million for the Thetford water supply, and £2 million for the sewage infrastructure in Thetford. So those are all ongoing work, and planned but not yet started. We're looking to deliver a further £14 million for the Thetford Sustainable Urban Extension, and the works around the A47, all of which Breckland has been very much in the driving seat for. And it's an enormous amount of capital money being spent in the district, even though we are in the midst of this terrible pandemic. And I would like to, as I say, would the leader not agree with me? That is an incredible achievement.
Peter.
Lovely. Thanks, Chairman, and thanks, Bill, for your question. Absolutely, I agree. As a district council, we would not be able to deliver on our fantastic programmes and activities without working in partnership, regardless of what that looks like. And some of the activities you've listed there shows how true partnership, working together, collaboration, and ensuring that we're able to raise the benefit realisation, the need to those other partner organisations, that we can leverage out money to ensure that Breckland is a place where residents and businesses can thrive.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other hands? Julie, Teresa?
No further hands raised, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sam, for that useful information. We're now moving to item 7, which is questions on notice under standing order number 6. Now, we received 4 questions from 3 councillors. All members have had the written responses, so I do not intend to go through them again, other than to ask each of the 3 members who submitted a question in turn, if they have a supplemental question, they are allowed 1 based on the topic they raised and addressed to the original person who responded, if all that makes sense. So I'm going to go to Councillor Morton first, as I had his question first in the running order, and ask you, Councillor Morton, do you have a supplemental question?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I do. I'm pleased to learn we have applied to the Green Homes Grant and ask that we are kept informed of progress. I hope it is the first of many applications we make to the green schemes coming forward. If successful, will data be collected to evaluate the financial and carbon benefits of the insulation work being carried out?
I believe that question was going to Councillor Sherwood.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and thank you very much, Councillor Morton, for your supplementary question there. I'm just reading my information, which is on my side screen, so please excuse me if I look away from the screen. As part of the Norfolk Green Homes funding bid, we're planning to nominate a park home site for insulation works in Breckland. The properties must be an EPC rating of EF or G, and the homes have to fall within certain financial criteria. Your question was relating to whether we will be monitoring that. I haven't got an exact answer to that question, but I would imagine that would be the case because we are part of the bigger scheme on that. So I'll get a written response to you and confirm that to you if I may. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sherwood. The second question came from Councillor Wickerson to the Executive Member for Planning. Councillor Wickerson, do you have a supplemental question? You are muted, Councillor Wickerson. If you could unmute yourself.
That's better. Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. Firstly, once again, my thanks particularly to Simon Wood for his very detailed response to my question without notice the last meeting. I do have a supplementary, but it is equally detailed, so I will be presenting that in writing and continue my dialogue with Simon Wood on the planning enforcement issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and that's an eminently sensible way forward. The third and fourth questions were submitted by Councillor Burt, so I'll take the first one. Again, this is to Councillor Sherwood. If there is a supplemental question, Councillor Burt?
Yes, on the first one. I've noted that we are sort of kicking the key performance indicator decisions to next year, and I look forward to reviewing those in January. But my question hasn't been fully answered in that I was asking whether data that I've been provided with on electricity consumption could be disclosed on our website or more widely, because I think not only is that useful for our assessments of our carbon targets and climate change, but I think it's actually data which should be available to everybody anyway.
Thank you. Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And again, thank you very much, Councillor Burt, for your supplementary question. In relation to the information that you've been supplied and the granular level of detail that contains, we're considering that, but there is possibly a data issue. Some of that information relates to tenants and users of our buildings, and that may be private and confidential information about certain consumption uses, etc. So we will continue to look at that, but at the moment there is no plan to publish that minute level of detail. Key performance indicators are a crucial part to monitoring. We have a good suite of reporting issues already. Once we move down the line and we understand exactly what the important issues and what we need to monitor, we will obviously adapt that reporting system so it's appropriate. So thank you for your question, and that's my response.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. And finally, Councillor Burt, do you have a question for a supplemental question for the Executive Member for Planning?
Yes, I do. So my question was about the local plan monitoring report. And I've noticed, I mean, it's a little waffly, the answer, but the bottom line, if I sum it up, is we actually haven't done what we were mandated to do. You've said that in 2018-19, we were concentrating on the local plan. Yes. And you've also said that in the monitoring report for 2019-20 was delayed because of the pandemic. But of course, the data should have been collected or was available sort of pre-pandemic, really. So we should have at least had some of it. So my question is, do we have sufficient resources to be able to fulfill this monitoring arrangement?
Thank you. Councillor Clausen.
Sorry, I'm Jim. Found the right button at last. Do we have the right resources? In normal times, I think the answer would be yes. Do we have the right resources during these COVID times? I honestly can't answer you. All I do know is that planners were doing work that had nothing to do with planning, and so on and so forth. So your comments are not completely surprising. I can delve back to give you better understanding of that if you wish. But as far as I'm concerned, we do have sufficient resource in normal times.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for your responses to the supplemental questions.
Madam Chairman, Councillor Morton would like to come back.
This is at my discretion, Councillor Morton, because are you asking a question based on your original question?
I put forward two questions. You've let me ask one supplementary. There is a supplementary to my second question.
Can officers confirm that? No, for some reason, I certainly don't have another one. Do any of the officers?
So, Madam Chairman, I can confirm that within Councillor Morton's question, there are two questions that are asked. One was about the homes grant and the second was about the monthly electricity consumption. It's on the front of the agenda.
Oh, thank you, Teresa. I read it as one question in the way it was put forward, but I will take that on board. And yes, Councillor Morton, please carry on, and it'll come back to Councillor
Sherwood.
Yes, I think that's the best person. Okay, off you go.
Yes, could he provide a written response is probably the best to confirm that street lighting is metered. And if so, can an analysis be made of how many lights had been converted to LED at March 2020, so we can get a full assessment of the impact LED lights are having?
Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Councillor Morton. Yes, I think your question related to the fact that the street light electricity consumption has reduced. And we identified, obviously, that we've been switching over to LED bulbs, which is contributing to that. I'm happy to supply you with a written answer to the question you've just put. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. Okay, now we'll move on to item 8, which is questions without notice under standing order number 7. So I'm going to ask people to raise their hands clearly if they wish to put a question, and I would ask you to keep it to a question. Whilst we enjoy a lot of preamble and information, etc., particularly using Zoom, etc., we're trying to keep things tight and focused. So please put your question succinctly and tell me who you are addressing it to. So, Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Chairman. This is a question to the leader, if I may. Sam, I've been trying to broaden my range of reading material of late, and I note a report in the Telegraph today details how at least 1 in 10 councillors in England have now written to the government to object to the latest planning proposals, and in particular the new algorithm that's been devised. Does the leader believe it is now time for the government to scrap the planning white paper and go back to the drawing board?
Leader.
Thanks for the question, Terry. No, I don't think it's time for the government to scrap the planning consultation white paper. That would be a phenomenal amount of civil servant and local government time wasted in that exercise. I think that local government has provided central government with a wealth of responses, and I think government should now, instead of making a response in haste, go through all of that information in detail and formulate their response to the white paper, including the numbers in relation to the algorithms. You'll note that Breckland took a robust response in relation to the white paper. I made a robust response to the Minister himself, Right Honourable Christopher Pincher, in relation to the white paper. And I think that we should just wait to see what that looks like. If, however, it is unfavourable to the residents of Breckland and Norfolk, then I think via our suitable lobbying forums of the DCN, the LGA, we need to push hard with government to ensure that those positions aren't enacted. But likewise, we need to be working with our local MPs, Right Honourable Elizabeth Trust and George Freeman, to ensure that our voices are heard within Westminster. And I'm pleased to reassure you that our voices are being heard by our local MPs. But no, I don't think it should be scrapped and start again. I think we should just wait to see what government comes back with.
Thank you very much. On my list so far, I have councillors Wickerson, Clark, Brindle and Terry. So you gentlemen may put your hands down if you wish.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, I have Councillor Attewell as well.
Right, okay.
And Councillor Burt.
And Councillor Crane, yes. Right, Mr. Attewell first, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions, if I may. First one to the exec member for planning. Will you join me in urging those community groups who are producing a neighbourhood plan to carry on with their work despite the uncertainty created by the government's planning white paper?
Councillor Clausen.
I didn't realise it was going to be that short a question. The simple answer to that is yes.
Thank you very much. And your second question, Councillor Attewell.
In the last 10 years, Norfolk County Council Conservatives have cut youth services, the connection service, children's centres, and are now closing Holt Hall. Does the leader think there is any scope for this council to provide additional help for the young people of Breckland?
Question for the leader.
Thanks, Chairman. As you know, Breckland provides youth provisions both within our leisure and some of our outreach activities across the district, not to the wealth and the breadth of which Norfolk County Council does. However, I think that all of us have our statutory responsibilities. I think that whilst we're looking forward to our emerging budget for the pursuing financial years, that we could look at those type of activities. However, as all of you will be aware that we've all got financial constraints, and I think that we need to ensure that we are targeting our finances to those who are most in need within the district and the county. And I know that my county colleagues are doing that, and Breckland District Council will continue to focus our finances on those who are most in need while delivering our statutory services to the same quality and level we currently do.
Thank you very much. I'll now go to Councillor Burt, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is addressed to the leader. I had a large number of outstanding issues with the outgoing Chief Executive Officer, including a complaint against a senior executive officer of this council. Now, I've not heard anything from the new head of paid service. So can you assure me that these matters will be dealt with and that there is sufficient time and resource allocated to the head of paid service to complete these obligations?
Thank you. Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Burt, for your question. This isn't the appropriate forum for this question to be raised. We have a very clear complaints process which you can refer these to, and they will be addressed. If it's in relation to any outgoing member of staff and a complaint is made against them, that will be looked at in the wider realm of whether it's suitable for us to commit officer resource to investigate that whilst they're departing the organisation. So I'm more than happy for you to pick this up with the monitoring officer, and if suitable and required to do so, as leader of the council, I will then intervene if it's needed. However, I'm not aware in the detail in what you're relating to, so I can't comment any further.
Thank you very much. I'll now move to Councillor Wickerson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A question for Councillor Sherwood. As we move into the Christmas and New Year period, are we able to receive any update on the appointment of the climate change officer? I understand that there was a short list was produced from the 64 applicants. Has an appointment yet been made, and when can we expect that individual to take his or her post on this very important subject? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and thank you very much for Councillor Wickerson for your question. I appreciate questions like this because it's good news. I'm pleased to say that I took part in the final shortlisted interviews, not as a candidate, as an interviewer. And I was incredibly impressed by the calibre, the knowledge and experience of those candidates. It was a pleasure to hear the knowledge they had, the experience they had, the visions they had. So I'm pleased to tell you that was completed yesterday. The successful candidate will be notified shortly, or they may already have been. And we're hoping that the new candidate will be able to take their place early in the new year. So yes, that's done. And once the appropriate HR procedures have been followed, the normal notice will go out to councillors so that they're aware of that appointment and who the new person will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to Councillor Crane, please.
Lovely, thank you, Madam Chairman. Does the Cabinet Member for Customer Engagement agree that Breckland has shown complete commitment to residents, ensuring they can access us more easily either online or by appointment, and more so now we are operating evening calls by appointment? Thank you.
Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and thank you very much, Councillor Crane. It must be Christmas. I'm getting all my presents at once. I think Sam and I are being asked lots of questions, and I know it's because you care passionately about the environment and customer service. Yes, Helen, I'm pleased to say that up my portfolio recognises that nobody should be missed. No resident in Breckland should be missed. And many people now use the internet and the website and the online forms to engage with the council. It's easier, it's more convenient. They can do it at a time to suit them. But still, we receive a high volume of calls. And the contact centres have adapted during the pandemic with our majority of our call centre team working from home and taking calls and responding. What we recognised was that there's always going to be a vulnerable element of our residents who may struggle with online forms and completing those. And during a busy day that any resident may have, trying to get help with that may be difficult. So what we've introduced is the scheme where people can ring and make an appointment or contact us through email, etc., and make an appointment and have a call back out of hours, when their life at home may be quieter, when they may have family of children a bed, so that they can take longer and a little bit more detail to respond to that. So Breckland and the contact centre will always make sure that we can provide the service our residents need. This is a trial process, and we'll be monitoring that over the month to see how much use and to what benefit it's been to our local residents. So thank you for your question, Helen, and we'll always make sure we do the best.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. I have Councillor Borrett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Attewell's question was based on the premise that there was a reduction in service for youth people from Norfolk County Council. Wouldn't the leader agree with me, in light of the following, that that is not the case? Norfolk County Council is moving from being a provider to being a facilitator of outdoor learning. There are other opportunities for outdoor learning other than those provided by Holt Hall. The County Council will use the money saved by closing Holt Hall to increase the provision and access to outdoor learning for Norfolk's youth, in particular through supporting participants with the promotion of personal benefits of engagement with the natural world, information and resources, and supporting improved availability and accessibility of outdoor experiences throughout people's lives. Through support to practitioners, information and resources, outreach, guidance and support, and training, and the bringing forward of accredited and champion roles. Also supporting partners and policymakers, these are other providers of outdoor learning and schools, in the promotion of Norfolk as a prime outdoor learning destination, community social action opportunities through the promotion of local, regional and national campaigns and schemes such as supporting the Duke of Edinburgh's scheme. That there would be more system collaboration as a result of this extra money, provider forums to identify, develop and share policy, practice improvement opportunities amongst providers of outdoor learning, and also a team dedicated to attraction of funding and investment. So collaborative partnership funding and investment bids to other bodies such as the LEP and Sport England. Would the leader not agree that that was a step forward?
Thank you, Councillor Borrett. Leader.
Lovely, thanks, Chairman. Thanks, Councillor Borrett, for your question. Completely agree that we must work in collaboration and partnership to deliver services across our district and our county to support those of all different varieties to ensure that Breckland is a place where residents and businesses can thrive.
Thank you very much. And if I could just add in areas like the museums, etc., they often and do have schemes for younger people. So there's a lot going out in the community. I think what would be useful for members going forward is a list of what there is out there, and perhaps at the right time that could be furnished to us all.
Thank you.
I'm now going to move to Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's a question to the Executive Member for Planning, Councillor Clausen. My question is, I'm very grateful to him, but also particularly the officers for their work behind the scenes with the different agencies around flooding, which I followed up with him in writing after the last meeting. Will he meet with me before they have their conclusion coming out in January, particularly around how we communicate with residents as partners with Norfolk County Council, how we might improve it. So I'm very happy to write to him, but it'd be good to have a face-to-face meeting on Zoom to explore some of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clausen.
Yes, Harry, happy to do that. But as you saw from the response, it was the wider Durham membership as well. So I would encourage that to be the case. And I think, so thank you to you and to Philip for raising it with us. And I think Breckland's been, getting stuck in way above its weight to get those parties into the same space. So, but yes, happy to do that. Zoom meeting, set it up early in the new year, as you say. Happy.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Brindle and Terry and Mr. Attewell wants to come back. If there's time at the end of the meeting, I will allow that. At the end of the session, I will allow that. So I'm going to move to Councillor Brindle first.
Thank you, Chairman. A question for the leader. May I, as Chairman of the Board of the Directors of Charles Burrell Centre in Thetford, thank the leader and the council for their support with the recently opened Burrell shop on site. Can the leader confirm, please, what benefits for Breckland residents he hopes will materialise from this new service?
Leader?
Lovely, thanks, Chairman. Thanks, Mike, for your question. And what a fantastic scheme and initiative. And for those who tune into Radio Norfolk, I was there at the Cracker Sparrows on Monday, once again explaining what a great initiative and activity this is. And it once again plays into Councillor Borrett's comments that working in collaboration and partnership, we can deliver so much for our communities and residents. And this is, as I said, in that radio interview and the statement to members across this council, that this is a trial pilot scheme within a location of Thetford, and it will absolutely transform the lives of those individuals who find themselves in financial hardship. And all of us at some point can find ourselves in financial hardship. So working with the Charles Burrell Centre and Norfolk Community Foundation, we were able to use our resources at pace to deliver what is a great scheme. And I'm hopeful that in the new year, Chairman, we can review the success of the Charles Burrell shop and see if we can replicate similar schemes where there is a need identified throughout Breckland and or Norfolk, working in partnership with charities such as the NCF or other organisations when it's appropriate to do so.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you.
I now have Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Sam. I believe it is important that the council is representative of the community it serves, and therefore a mixture of ages and career types is important to get a broad section of views. As somebody that works full-time, daytime meetings are often a struggle for me, and I'm sure many other members. Would you support Breckland following other councils in Norfolk, whereby at least some council meetings are held in the evenings?
Thank you very much. Leader?
Lovely, thanks, Councillor Terry, for your question. It's not a decision for me, it'll be a decision for this council. My personal view is that I think it would be immensely complicated and difficult. Many of us on this call are parish councillors. Many of us have numerous parish councils we have to represent. And if you're a twin hatter, you then have numerous divisional parish councils you have to support. So for us to juggle what is evening meetings for Breckland district, as well as on top of representing all of the parishes, particularly some of my rural colleagues have to go to, I think it'll be immensely challenging. I am very sympathetic to individuals such as yourself and others who have full-time jobs and have to take unpaid leave or get support for them, their employer to attend daytime meetings. I'm more than happy, Stuart, to write to your employer to recognise and raise the important role you play within the community and actually how it's benefiting you as an individual within his employment team of the skills which you can pick up as well. So not is it just benefiting your community, your employer should see some of those wider benefits as well. But of course, it's a decision for this council. And if this council wishes to review the daytime meetings position, then of course it's the position for this council to review that. But for me personally, Chairman, I think that Breckland has a well-trodden position in relation to its daytime meetings. We do receive an allowance which is in line with others across Norfolk, and that allowance is in remuneration for possible loss of earnings through taking unpaid leave or reduced hours. And of course, I think that all of us give a fantastic service to our parishes, and for those to occur, we have to attend those parish council meetings, which all occur during the evening.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Sam. Much appreciated.
I have Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Question to Councillor Hewitt. Would he agree with me that the recent work completed in Swaffham by our facilities team should be welcomed because it has allowed additional market traders to attend the town's popular Saturday market, some of whom have been waiting to attend since late summer? So if he could agree with me and pass the thanks on to the relevant officers for that work, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Hewitt, do you wish to respond?
Yes, I will, and it will be brief. Thank you, Councillor Coleman. I do agree. It's good that we've actually managed to get the drop-down bollards installed. Swaffham Town Council have been updated. Hopefully it will improve the whole vista of the marketplace moving forward, and I will pass on your thanks to the facilities team. Thanks.
Thank you. Do I have any other speakers other than Councillor Atterwill who wishes to come back? Julie, Teresa?
Madam Chairman, I see no more hands raised.
Okay. Roger, you can have the last spot then.
Thank you, Chairman. Just like to thank Councillor Clausen for his earlier response, urging local communities to carry on with their neighbourhood plan work. On that basis then, can you explain to me why we're not leading by example and carrying on the work of our local plan group? Surely the two go hand in hand. Thank you.
Councillor Clausen?
Well, if you can tell me what the new local plan is going to look like, we'll carry on and do some work. But as you know, the white paper, the local plans are going to look completely different. And as the leaders said earlier, the government is very likely to use to reinstate the work they've already done. And certainly the local plan part of that is a substantial part of that. So the reason that the local plan group was stood up for the moment, because it looked pretty much as if it would be a complete waste of time and money to do the things that the inspector had asked us to do if they were going to, if the white paper was going to become into law. So that's the reason for it. So until such time as we are content that we will not be wasting our time, we will not be wasting our money, that's where we're at.
Thank you very much. That's the end of item 8. We'll now move on to item 9, which is on place-based management. And I'm delighted to welcome Nathan Elvery, who is our Head of Paid Service and Strategic Advisor, to our screens. Welcome to Breckland, Nathan.
Thank you, Chairman.
And over to the leader.
Lovely, thank you, Chairman. And I'm pleased to present the report at agenda item 9, contained within pages 17 to 26. There are 2 parts to this report, Chairman, and I hope members have read it verbatim. Part 1 is just to acknowledge and to note the contents of the report. Back in Cabinet in July of this year, myself and Rob Walker and Maxine O'Mahony presented what was an interim position statement for us as the council, giving some clarity to where we were and where we expected through the timeline to bring back those shared offices across both places. Of course, the second wave, the national pandemic, has continued, and of course it was right and proper that we continue to focus our efforts and our attention within our Shire County of Norfolk. And I think all of us would agree that has spoken dividends in our way that we've been able to respond at pace. The note in the report, Chairman, just gives some sight that we are continuing in our place-based timeline until the early part of March 2021, with a decision on what the future could look like. And of course, all of us will note that every 5 years we review the partnership And part of the report articulates that we are looking at the partnership and what it could and should look like moving forward into 2021 and years ahead. The second part of the report, Chairman, is a decision of this council, and that is for us to acknowledge that whilst we've had a place-based team, that Christine Marshall has been quite rightly focusing her attentions in South Holland in Lincolnshire. And as such, it's appropriate then for us to accept her resignation as the company director for ARP, Area Revenues Partnership Trading, our Revs and Bens team, and for us as a council then to appoint Sarah Wissenholm-Smythe as our legal services manager to replace her, allowing us as Breckland in the intervening period to have a Breckland dedicated officer focused on that activity. Chairman, hopefully the report's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm more than happy to take any questions from colleagues.
Thank you very much. If you wish to ask the leader any questions based on the report, please raise your hands clearly. I have Councillor Burt.
Thank you, Chairman. I read with interest on page 18, section 1.4. It says in the report, most emergencies, bracket, that are planned for, close bracket, tend to have a geographical dimension. And absolutely, and that should be obvious from the beginning. I wonder whether this is a little bit with the view of hindsight, the wonderful thing that is hindsight, that we are actually inching our way to saying that we didn't have a proper plan in place. And let's remember that pandemic is a tier 1 risk that appears on every significant emergency plan as the first item. So in some ways I'm pleased to see it, but it's kind of, let's be a bit more explicit about the things which didn't work well so that we can get them right.
Thank you. Leader?
Lovely, thanks, Chairman. And I'm afraid, Councillor Burt, that we agree on some things and we disagree on others. And this is one thing which I'm going to once again disagree with you on. Breckland Council, within 3 days, was able to pivot and organise a place-based team across 2 counties in which we could divvy up the workforce to ensure that we could respond at pace to the emergence of the pandemic when it was announced in the middle of February. And in doing so, not only were our officers then able to operate from home, we were then able in quick order to stand up to support both residents who are most in need and those businesses, whilst ensuring that the executive function could still continue under the delegations and the Constitution. Hindsight absolutely is a marvellous thing. And I think once we're able to pause and draw breath, we will all across the world, but more importantly within Breckland, reflect on what went well and what didn't. And you will appreciate, Councillor Burt, that that is appropriate to do so in any civil contingency planning exercise, that you have a full wash up, which is honest and frank, to make sure that when those situations occur again, you have learned from those and you are continuously improving. So I think that Breckland has responded well. I think that our processes and plans stood the test of time. Our contingency plans stood the test. And I think that when we get to the opportunity in 2021, Chairman, to review the whole of our response to the pandemic, we will have room for improvement. However, I think that we will all reflect that we did our best and that our systems and processes did stand up.
Thank you, Leader. Do I see any more hands?
Madam Chair, I see no further hands up.
Thank you very much. So we have recommendations in front of you. Please note that we are voting on the, although it says Breckland and South Holland District Council's recommendations, we are voting on the ones that apply to Breckland. So I assume the leader is proposing the recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose the recommendations contained within agenda item 9 on page 17 to note the contents of the report, to agree the extension, and for Breckland Council to make the decision on Christine Marshall resigning as the company director of ARP Trading Limited, and to agree the appointment of Sarah Wissenholm-Smythe as the replacement.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? Thank you. Ms. Helen Crane, Councillor Crane. We'll do the vote by a show of hands. So again, please raise your hands clearly if you are supporting the recommendations en bloc. Thank you. Do we have anyone against? Do we have any abstentions? Okay, Julie.
Yes,
I think
that's
that is
carried.
carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 10, which is the revised statement of licensing policy. And I'm going to hand over to Councillor Bambridge.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, I'm very happy to bring this proposal before you this morning. As at section 1.2 on page 27, it is our 5-yearly statement or review of policy, and this is something that we do always do on a regular basis, and it brings our licensing policy up to date. For your help, all the changes made to the policy are highlighted in yellow, as you've probably already seen, and therefore you can go through and quite quickly pick up changes. I don't propose to go through all of them, but I do just want to bring some of the highlighted issues before you. For instance, on page 38, it deals with the right to work, which is very important for some people applying for a license. And during this COVID pandemic, we certainly apply that. Page 59, it refers to modern slavery, which is something we as a council are concerned about, as are most of the other councils across the area. And it also, incidentally, for councillors who don't have the helpline is there because it's a very difficult subject which needs to be dealt with correctly. On pages 39 and 40, it talks about how we deal with petitions. This often causes confusion within the community, so it's worthwhile members getting up to date on that. One of the things that I was not so certain about, and I had a long talk with Josie Hoven, who's also on the line and can answer your questions, about wholesale sales. This is something we've had problems with Breckland in the past, but wholesale sales of alcohol and of course mobile sales, which in the pandemic come before us. Lots of us now have delivery from various people with food and so on directly to our homes. So this is something that we needed to look at. Much of it is to do with tidying up, as on page 54 with the TENS. We'd already sorted this all out during the 5-year period or the 4-year period since we last reviewed it. And so that's now into our policy formally. So I do want to send my thanks to Marion and the licensing committee, which achieved, I understand, unanimous cross-party support for all the changes, additions, and recognising in this year of pandemic the need for both a full online national policy to comply with national policy and to support local businesses as well as, but committing to constantly, and we will constantly review Breckland's statement of licensing policy. Josie Hoven is online and I'm here and I'm happy to answer any of your questions before I propose the policy to you.
Thank you, Councillor Bambridge. So once again, if you'd like to ask a question, please let us know by raising your hand.
Madam Chairman, I see no hands raised.
Wow, this is all going so well. So you have a recommendation before you, which Councillor Bambridge has proposed. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. I can see several hands waving. And will you raise your hands if you are in favour of that recommendation? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Nope.
Carried, Madam Chairman.
Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, we'll now move on to item 11, which is all to do with the Constitution. So I'm going to pass to Councillor Sarah Suggett, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to bring to you this morning the report containing the proposed amendments to the Constitution. Several are routine matters to reflect legal requirements, such as the new animal welfare regulations. I would just like to alter the recommendation slightly and remove item A to refer back to governance and audit, whereby some further clarity can be ascertained regarding the non-key officer decisions. So I would like to propose to take items B to G on block as per recommendations on pages 79 to 80. And we do have Mark Stinson here, should anybody have any questions regarding the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Suggett. So once again, if you have a question, please raise your hand. I have Councillor Burt.
Thank you. I've just on reflection, actually, my question might be better looked at under Agenda 13, if we're going to look at that one.
We can manage that for you. Yes, thank you. Any other questions based on item 11?
Councillor Borrett.
Thank you. Councillor Borrett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As Chair of Governance and Audit, I thank the Cabinet Member for the opportunity for us to have a further look at this area, and I support her proposal that it be saved for another day. So I'd just like to support the Cabinet Member's proposal.
Thank you very much. Any other hands?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. So Councillor Suggett has made the proposal leaving out item A, all the rest on block. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Borrett. All those in favour, will you please raise your hands clearly? Anyone against? Any abstentions?
That's carried, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to item 12, nominations for committee and other seats. I have nothing on that needs reporting. Is that correct? Councillor Clausen, no changes.
Nothing to report, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Item 13, amendments to the Constitution, if any. I have none, but I will let Councillor Burt speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I have discussed at some length with Mark Stinson some requirements for updates of our Constitution around the Nolan principles. These are on page 177, and I note that the new Constitution dated the 5th of November 2020 is already published on the website. Unfortunately, those updates to the Nolan principles seem to have dropped off the radar and haven't been made. The issue being that the text that we use within our Constitution is apparently illustrative text from the Local Government Act a very long time ago, and the Nolan principles have been updated by the 14th report in 2013, which again is a long time ago. But these include a number of changes. For example, under the section of honesty, there is a requirement to be truthful. And that requirement to be truthful is missing from our Constitution, which I think is really very much remiss of us, especially since as I understand it, the 2011 Localism Act actually requires us to actually reflect the Nolan Constitution, the Nolan principles. We can change them, or we can change the exact wording, but it must be consistent with the 7 principles. And I think we are many, many, many years behind, and I am extremely disappointed that we haven't taken the opportunity when we updated the Constitution to actually make that amendment. I have some comments, please.
Thank you. I'm going to go through our leader as to who he'd like to respond to that.
Chairman, I can respond if you're happy for me to do so.
If yes, that's fine. Thank you, Mark.
So, yes, Councillor Burt did discuss this with me some weeks ago.
The reason that we have not taken this opportunity to amend the Constitution is that there is a piece of work going on nationally that involves the Local Government Association on standards and the Code of Conduct, arising out of the House of Lords Committee on Standards in Public Life. So we're intending to sweep all of these matters up in a single report once that piece of work, that central piece of work, has been done. Members will recall that very recently they had a link to a consultation paper that the LGA had issued, which is all part of that piece of work, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to bring in Councillor Borrett as Chairman of Governance and Audit, that looks after the Constitution for us.
And I just wanted to come in and agree with the officer, Mark Stimpson. This is something that the Governance and Audit Committee is aware of, and all members have been aware of the LGA consultation document. So, and I would also say that there is an expectation on members to tell the truth, and if a complaint was brought about a member not telling the truth to a disciplinary or an appeals panel at Governance and Audit, it would be something that the panel would take a very dim view of. So I'd like to reassure Councillor Burt that it is something that is expected as part of members' behaviour. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Councillor Burt, I'm going to say something. I think a couple of years ago, we had a constitutional working party, probably before the last election, if I think about it, where many of us spent many, many hours together trying to get something that was fit for purpose, that was suitable for Breckland going forward. So it is an ongoing piece of work, and members are encouraged, if they have suggestions or comments, to make sure it goes through the Chairman of Governance and Audit, so these things are picked up. Right, I'm now going to move to item 14. I have no other urgent business other than to read a statement to you all. So I hope you all have a glass of something to hand. This Christmas will be very different and difficult for many of our residents, but with the help and support of our health and care workers, key workers, volunteers, scientists, councils and all other agencies, I hope their lives have been made a little easier during the pandemic. We have a way to go. The vaccination programme will take many months to reach everyone, but I believe we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. In the words of the great gentleman we call Captain, Sir Tom Moore, we will get through this and come out of it stronger, more united and ready to face any challenge together. Let's raise a glass to thank everyone in our community and beyond who has played a part, however small or great, in keeping the communities in Breckland going, and to our absent friends. Here's to a happier and safer 2021. And on behalf of you all, may I wish everyone a very happy Christmas and a peaceful New Year. Cheers.
Merry Christmas.
Cheers.
Well said, Madam Chairman.
Well said.
Hear, hear, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And before I really go,